Welcome back to the Vandy Sports Podcast alongside Joey Dwyer. I am Billy Derrick, and we are reporting live, as you can see, from the press box at Hawkins Field after Vanderbilt defeats. I guess you could say that's a series win. It's a 3 inning games, but Vanderbilt beats Wake Forest 2 out of 3. They won game 2 and 3. And Joey, before we dive into everything, I want to get to our sponsors, though. They are as big a part of VandySports.com as anything, as you and I, as Chris, as Luke, as everybody that's involved. The Wash House, the Murfreesboro Pure Milk Company, Sutherland and Belk, and Maynard Nexon Government Contracts Group. First, for the Murfreesboro Pure Milk Company, they are a family-owned third-generation milk.
Ken Seals gets sacked on third down. Have we heard this movie before?
Yes, we have. I like the interruption, Joey. Well, yeah, we are watching Vanderbilt Ole Miss right now. Ole Miss leads 13-0. They, Murfreesboro Pure Milk Company, they were a partnership that began over 50 years ago with Purity Dairy in Nashville to provide purity milk and ice cream to consumers in Middle Tennessee, and they now serve Southern Kentucky, Northern Alabama, Chattanooga, and North Georgia. For more information, visit their website at mpmci.com. Also, the Wash House. They are a presenting sponsor for basketball this season. Are you dreading laundry day, Joey?
Absolutely.
Is it stealing time to do the things that you truly enjoy?
It always does, Billy.
Well, let the laundry professionals at the Wash House take care of that for you with 2 convenient locations in the greater Nashville area. Just drop off your dirty laundry, and their professional attendants can give you back the one thing, Joey, you can never have enough of, your time. Within 24 hours, you can pick up your nicely folded, fresh, and clean laundry ready to be put away. Log on to their website. That's washhouseclean.com. Joey, couple of more. Guest line, you're the guest today. I'll just call you the guest. John Leffen of the Maynard Nexon Government Contracts Group. They advise government contractors on all aspects of their businesses with a proud focus on matching legal solutions to business needs. Give them a call, 256-551-0171, and then Sutherland and Bell, longest-running sponsor of VandySports.com, family-owned injury law firm. If you or a loved one has been hurt or in an accident, give Taylor or Russell a call, 615-846-6200, to see what your rights are and if they can help. All right, Joey, let's start with baseball. And again, not that many people care. I think most people are coming for our report on the baseball scrimmage and then your secret scrimmage basketball thoughts, but football game. Jamie Vincent commits to Vanderbilt, so I'll kind of throw it to you there later in the pod, Joey. We'll probably get about 15, 20 minutes here, but let's start with baseball. And, overall, I thought it was a good day for Vanderbilt, and we just talked to Tim Corbin, and he referenced last week as a shitty week. He literally said that and towards the end of the interview. I think you asked him about what's it feel like to just get back on track after a tough week last week against Rutgers, and he said, yeah, last week was shitty, this week was better. So I think Coach Corbin just summed it up perfectly for us.
Yeah, I think at this point of the year, there was a media member who said process over results, and that's kind of what I look at. But obviously you can take stuff from this time of year. You can take standouts. You can take what Vanderbilt's rotation is going to look like, what its positions are going to look like. I don't think this is the make or break. Vanderbilt won that third game with largely reserves in the game. Raymond Velasquez was the guy who kind of put Vanderbilt over the edge. Yeah. It's a guy who probably won't see the field a whole lot this year, but I think there's a lot to take away. I take away Troy Lanieve having a really nice day, 2 homers, got Vanderbilt's first hit of the day, made a nice diving stop in the outfield. Jack Bolger had a really nice day, had the biggest hit of the day for Vanderbilt. Yep. So there's things to take here. Also with the pitching staff, you look at Ethan McIlvain, tremendous outing from him, was pumping 96. Yeah. Miller Green had a solid outing, walked a few guys, didn't touch 90, but stuff plays, and I think Vanderbilt has a lot of good things to take away from today. We'll get more into standouts in a little bit, but I think it was a good overall day for Vanderbilt. Last Saturday was certainly not, but it feels like it took a step in the right direction today, and that process is kind of paying off for Tim Corbin and his guys.
Yeah, and he mentioned Matthew Polk's status, his injury report, and basically it did look like a leg injury. I think he's going to need stitches. So he kind of got his leg caught up in that wall, kind of this side of the field, right field line, kind of under the wall. It's not a very tall wall, and it's a padded wall, but he just got his leg stuck under there, so he's going to get an MRI. We'll see about the status of Matthew Polk. Luckily, it's October, so nothing real. I mean, no injury, unless it's a severe injury, really matters. Ole Miss is trying to punch it in right here, and I think they did with a defensive lineman. So live scoreboard updates for Vanderbilt Ole Miss, what everybody came here for. But yeah, so Matthew Polk, nothing really clear there. We'll see about the MRI and what that gives us. I want to mention 2 pitchers though. I think if we had 2 MVPs today, Joey, at least from my perspective, keeping the stats, Bryce Cunningham, 4 strikeouts, no walks through 2 innings. And every pitcher, the most they pitched was 2 innings, right? Some guys went 1 inning. And Ethan McIlvain, 4 strikeouts, no walks. He also had a nasty pickoff move to basically end the second game, the win for Vanderbilt, the first win in this series. I was really impressed. First with Cunningham. You saw Cunningham in that second game. And then Ethan McIlvain came in pumping 96, 97. I think he touched 98. And Joey, he is a big kid. I think he's listed at, 6'4"? And so, 210. He's his brother Chris played here, of course, and Chris is a little bit of a different stature than him. Chris was a great pitcher. Ethan, though, looks legit. And I think that's a piece that we'll be talking about from here on out as a guy. Well, I'm sure he'll start midweek games. That would be my guess. But you could see him, I think, starting in the Sunday role potentially. It's super early. It's only October. But, Joey, I was really impressed with McIlvain, but also Bryce Cunningham.
Yeah, I think my big takeaway from today, and it's early, like I mentioned, but my big takeaway is that Vanderbilt's going to have a third starter kind of step into that role. I'm more confident after today than I was heading into today that somebody can do that. Bryce Cunningham was really good. He was hitting the zone with his breaking ball, and I think that's something that hadn't happened a whole lot last year. I think he was playing off his fastball really well with his breaking ball and playing off his breaking ball well with his fastball. I think he did a lot of good things. Sam Leboki's a name we didn't mention. Yeah. He pitched 2 innings, had 4 strikeouts, only gave up 2 hits, no earned runs, no runs in general. Solid outing from him. Grayson Carter I thought was pretty solid outside of the home run. That's going to be a top 10 pick who hit the home run off of him. He was pumping, 98. His breaking pitches were working. He was throwing them for strikes. I thought he looked pretty solid, although he gave up the home run. I thought he was pretty good. Levi Huseman wasn't all that great. Struggled with command a little bit. Kind of just trying to run through the pitchers here. Yeah. Teague looked good, the freshman. I think he did some good things late, although probably against some of the backups. But Dukanich was good. You said he was back. I think you're pretty close to being on the mark there. I think Vanderbilt has a lot of options for that Sunday role and for the midweek role, and I think we're in a lot better shape kind of projecting that than we were heading into the day. And I don't think there's a whole lot of guys who I turn to and say, man, he wasn't good enough today. I don't think he's going to be in that role. I think you have a lot of guys after today who you think, wow, that guy's got something to build on here as we head into the rest of the fall and then head into the spring as well.
Yeah, and it's early. You had guys pitch really well. You had guys struggle. Yeah, Levi Huseman struggled. Yeah, he's a transfer. I'm sure he's got to get his feet wet. Sam Leboki, I thought, pitched really well, 4 strikeouts. Devin Futrell struggled a little bit. He gave up 3 hits and 3 earned runs and only 1 strikeout. But he's a guy that pitches to contact. So we sort of expect this. I mean, it's not
especially.
Right. Not saying we expect him to struggle, but that's kind of the type of guy Futrell is. We mentioned Ethan McIlvain. Thought David Horn looked pretty good.
He was good.
Went in there and then Sawyer Hawks. He only pitched 1 inning. Dukanich. You heard some Duke. You had a good crowd out here today, by the way, Joe. I wanted to mention that up front. Great crowd on a beautiful day. It was raining a little bit at the end, but speaking of the crowd, you heard some Duke chants for Dukanich, and he's a player that didn't pitch last year. So there's some guys like Dukanich and some guys that were banged up last year that couldn't play the entire season. David Horn was hurt for most of the season. He came back later in the season last year. You saw him pitch really well against Louisville. So pitching-wise, I was impressed. Now, there's always going to be – you're not going to be perfect. It's not ever going to be perfect. But if I had to name a couple of pitching MVPs, I would go Cunningham and then McIlvain. Mm-hmm. I mean, Ethan McIlvain is going to be really fun to watch down the stretch here and through the fall, but also into the actual season and see what he can do, see what he can get done. Joey, in terms of offensively, struggled at times. I think, game 1, what was it, 5-2? I think Wake Forest won 6-2. And then game 2, it was low scoring. I mean, it's 6-inning games, right? You're not going to have 15 to 12 games. But I was really impressed with Jack Bulger today. In game 2, he came through with a huge 2 RBI single in the 5th inning. He showed some emotion. You saw some emotion at several times from guys today. That was the 3-run inning for Vanderbilt that ended up helping them pull away. So Jack Bulger impressed today. He had some big hits. I don't think he had a home run, but he had just some huge RBI hits. Mm-hmm. And then besides Bulger, Matthew Polk, of course, exited late, but I think he's a guy that you look for to do well offensively. Let's see here, rumbling through the stats. Davis Diaz, 3 for 7 with a single, a double, and an RBI. Good job, Joey. Calvin Hewitt had a home run. He went 2 for 3. And then Raymond Velasquez, as he mentioned, a 2-run home run in Game 3. That kind of catapulted them. So you had some guys struggle. R.J. Austin, 0 for 5. Jaden Davis, 0 for 5. Vastine struggled 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts. Austin Fort struggled a little bit. But really impressed with Jack Bulger, Hewitt, Davis Diaz. Those 3 guys right there. Calvin Hewitt's a guy. I'm talking to one of our colleagues up here from D1Baseball.com, And, he told me that he thinks Calvin Hewitt is sort of the linchpin this year, right? He's one of those guys that they have to have perform, right? And there's guys like Bolger and other guys like Leneve. Of course, Leneve had a huge day today with 2 home runs. So offensive MVP, I'd probably go with Leneve. And then you got guys like Davis Diaz as well. So offensively, Joey, this is a team that last season we didn't see a whole lot from. And then 2 years ago we didn't see a whole lot from either. I know it's October, but you gotta, if you can even the offensive output with what you're getting from the pitchers, that's a good sign. But there's still a work in progress offensively, I think.
Yeah, you didn't get much from R.J. Austin today. You didn't get much from Jonathan Vastine. You didn't get much from, I guess Polk wasn't playing a whole lot. Maldonado didn't play a whole lot. Not a whole lot of great stuff from Vanderbilt's kind of go-to linchpin guys, but I think you feel awesome about what you got from Troy Leneve. I think Troy Leneve is a guy who is going to be better than people think, and people think he could be pretty good. I don't think people realize quite how good he could be this year. He's an old guy. He's done it before in this league. He's had 2 tears in this league where he's really been one of the guys for this Vanderbilt team. I don't know that he's going to be R.J. Schreck. I don't know that he's the big draft prospect on this team. He could do some really good things for you, though. You notice, Billy, both of those homers were to the opposite field for him. Yes. And that hit that he had to kind of start Vanderbilt's offense for the day was in the opposite field as well. So he did some really good things, made a nice diving catch out there. Also misplayed a ball in left field, but kind of comes with the time of year. I think Troy Leneve could be a huge factor for them. And also a guy I want to mention, a young guy who we haven't got to, Camden Kojal. He was fantastic, not only today but also Tuesday when I was here. I think every time he gets up, maybe the stats don't reflect this, every time he gets up to the plate, I feel like he either walks or hits the ball hard. Yeah. That's what you're looking for your freshman. I don't know that he's going to play a whole lot. They have a lot of depth in the middle infield. Jaden Davis, the guy they're expecting to make a power leap. I think that was reflected in him hitting 4th today. Mm-hmm. But also Jonathan Vastine, Koziel's played a little short. Yeah. R.J. Austin's in the middle infield. So I think it's going to be difficult for him a little bit to kind of find time. But if he can, I think he could make a real impact. I think they have some good guys who can DH. And more of the question for me is whether they have the top-end guys. Maybe Troy Leneve could step into that role. Maybe Vastine and Austin take a leap. Didn't show that today a whole lot, but I think maybe Davis Diaz could maybe step into a role as a big-time guy. Hit the ball hard today. I thought he did some really good things, but I think they certainly have the depth, especially in the outfield, even with Matthew Polk. He didn't notice a whole lot of difference, and that guy started about every game for them last year. Mm-hmm. So the depth is there. Whether they have the frontline guys, it's hard to tell at this point in the year, and I think that's my big question with the offense. But they have a lot of guys, even freshmen, who did some good things. Braden Holcomb didn't play awesome today, had an error at third, I think struck out a time or two. Also walked, which was nice to see for a freshman. But overall, I think there's some good in this team in terms of its depth. My question, like I said, though, and I kind of waffled a little bit. My question, do they have the frontline guys in the lineup? We'll see.
Yeah, and, the power, right? Consistent power. You're in the SEC, right? It's like football.
Right.
Do you have the dudes in the 4th quarter? Are you physical enough? Same with basketball, right? This is the SEC, right? Do you have enough power? It's a transfer portal world. Vanderbilt picked up some transfer guys. I thought Humphrey, he didn't do a whole lot, but we saw some of his speed. I think he stole a base today. Mm-hmm. Who else, Joey? Transfer-wise,
2 bases too.
Jack Bolger did steal a couple of bases. Pitching-wise, from transfers, Huseman and Hawks didn't pitch a ton. Huseman struggled a little bit, but I'm watching the transfers this year. How do they perform? Because that's going to be a key for this team this year, right? I mean, you brought those guys in to play and perform for this team. So that's going to be what I'm looking at. But pitching-wise, Ethan McIlvain is my MVP on the mound, and then offensively, Troy Leneve is going to be mine.
You mentioned transfers, and I think we'd be remiss to not mention this. Chase Burns, he threw today. I thought that he was going to be fantastic. I think Vanderbilt got to him a little bit, though. Troy Leneve kind of opened up the offense. Bolger had a double on him as well. So I think Chase Burns struggled with his command a little bit and showed you that maybe the transfer portal isn't foolproof, even if you get a good player like that who's going to be a high pick. Really interesting to see kind of how Vanderbilt got to him early, and that was really the only time you saw the offense start to flow a little bit was when Chase Burns was on the mound. It obviously got going later against some of their worse arms, but when Wake Forest had good arms and Chase Burns was the only guy that Vanderbilt really got to. So really interesting to see them kind of jump on him a little bit, and I think there's a lot of good to take from that. He hit Jaden Davis. Jaden Davis stayed in the game, luckily for Vanderbilt, but a lot of good things off Chase Burns today, and I think that was a really interesting storyline with his interest in Vanderbilt and all that happened with him at Tennessee. I think that was something we had to watch going into the day, and we'd be remiss to not mention now.
And all of a sudden, Matt Hayball fakes the punt. I don't know. He fumbled it, but Vanderbilt recovered, and I think Ashmore got it back. That might be a first down for Vanderbilt.
What are they going to say? Oh, he ruled that really
Unbelievable. Short. I think that's going to be almost football.
This is where the Billy Derrick play-by-play skills come into play. Vanderbilt's down 20-0, and Billy Derrick's still electric.
That tells you how the night's going. We've got to do a post-game report on this game, too.
It won't be super long from when you guys see this, so tune in a few hours.
Exactly. And then if you're listening to this Sunday, we will put this up on the podcast feed just if you guys want to, be informed on this baseball series scrimmage with Wake Forest. Again, game 1, Wake Forest won 5-2. Game 2, Vanderbilt won 4-3, and then game 3, Vanderbilt won 5-1. So that'd be considered a series win. I know they only played 6 innings, but overall, I thought it was good. Good day for Vanderbilt on the baseball front. But Joey, let's switch it over to the hardwood. And again, this is a secret scrimmage. I don't know why they're calling it that because there was a scrimmage today between Indiana and Purdue that was great crowd. Or Arkansas and Purdue.
Best team in the SEC, Arkansas.
Yeah, Arkansas and Purdue. That's not a secret scrimmage. They played in front of a sold-out crowd, so it's just kind of interesting how that goes. But they had a secret scrimmage today against
Oklahoma. From what I've heard, they played at the Overtime Elite facility, and if you're on the message board, you saw this a while back, but Vanderbilt played Oklahoma today, lost by 5. There's some context I'd like to add, though, because I'm sure Trilly Donovan or whoever will tweet it. That's not their fault that they're going to tweet it. I would tweet it, too, if we didn't have the message board. But Tyron Lawrence didn't play. Van Allen Lubin didn't play. Lee Dort didn't play. Ezra Magnon left with cramps. And Colin Smith left after a collision with an Oklahoma player. Doesn't sound like any of that is super severe. We'll check it in with Stackhouse soon, I'm sure. But that's all worth monitoring. I think at this point of the year, you want to be precautionary more than anything. Vanderbilt loses, though. Not the worst thing in the world. They only lost by 5 without Tyron Lawrence, without Van Allen Lubin. And then I don't know how much Magnon and Smith missed, but probably a decent amount of time, you would think, at least combined. So not an awful thing for Vanderbilt to only lose that game by 5, especially against an Oklahoma team that is in the Big 12, one of the best leagues in the country. I don't know that they have the dogs like they've had in the past. I think their roster's a little more barren than it has been, but still a good team and team that kind of has the identity that Vanderbilt wants to have. And I think it's nice for them to see that early in the year and see kind of how they stack up with a team like that. So really interesting for Vanderbilt. I don't have a whole lot of stats from the scrimmage like I had last time because it was just so stagnant in terms of playing time and such. And the injury updates were the things that I was really trying to get to, but I think it's a interesting day for Vanderbilt, maybe not awesome. What is awesome for Vanderbilt, lands Jamie Vinson, tremendous upside guy, only played 5 minutes a game at Oak Hill last year, only averaged 3.5 points a game. Maybe not the guy that wows you as a freshman, but I think he can do some really nice things. Actually had a 5-inch growth spurt as an underclassman in high school, so there's a lot to like there and a lot for him to kind of grow into as he gets older. I think this is kind of a take for Vanderbilt that maybe shows their confidence in terms of their player development. Going to be a real test for that staff to see if they can develop Jamie Vincent and see what he can be long term. Billy, I think that's a big worth taking, even if he is raw and even if he's not going to give you much freshman year. I think Carter Lang, Lee Dort, and Van Allen Lubin all having more than 2 years of eligibility takes a lot of pressure off him and allows him to kind of grow into what he wants to become as a player. He's a guy who can shoot it. He can put it on the floor a little bit. That comes from him being more of a wing and a guard as a high schooler early in his career. Now transitioning into being a big, you can see flashes of physicality, the 7'5" wingspan, the 6'10" frame. He can do a lot of good things as a shot blocker, can do a lot of good things around the bucket. What's really exciting to me is the handling ability and the ability to shoot it, and I think that's something Vanderbilt fans should be excited about when watching that highlight tape. There's more to game than highlights, though, and I think that's where Jamie Vincent can kind of improve as an all-around player. Sorry to ramble, Billy. I'm sure you want to talk too, but that's kind of what I have.
That's the basketball scoop from Joey Dwyer. You're the guy for basketball, but I did think it was interesting. Had an SEC offer, Ole Miss. Also had Texas Tech, Cal, Nevada, Tulsa. I look at his size, Joe. He's 6'11", 210. Like, he's a guy that obviously is a project, right? We've seen project post players before, not just under Stackhouse, under Kevin Stallings, under Bryce Drew, and those type of coaches. But as Ole Miss takes a 26-0 lead over Vanderbilt, but yeah, overall I think it's not really a huge splash, but it is another guy that if Stackhouse is still here and developing players and still the coach at Vanderbilt. I think he's a guy that we can look at down the road as a guy that might make an impact. And Joey, we talked about it earlier. Their 2024 class is pretty much locked up right now. I mean, you might see one more guy potentially, but I mean, you look at their class and they're pretty solidified with that 2024 class right now.
Yeah, it's interesting to me with Vincent. I think he had silenced it a few weeks ago. I had kind of expected this, thus seeing how fast we posted all our stuff. I had a rapid reaction film for about 3 weeks to him. If anyone was confused as to why I'm not wearing the same shirt in the rapid reaction, that's why. But it feels like Vincent's a guy who could really take a step. And what I wanted to mention with him also, we talk about him being a project. He has rapidly improved. Like, if you watch him at Oak Hill last year, he was playing mop-up duty. This year was on the UIBL, or not the UIBL circuit, the Adidas circuit. Was doing some really nice things, was playing a lot. I think he'll be the sixth man at Oak Hill this year. I'll have to check in on that, but I think he could be a really good player for them. And Jerry Stackhouse getting a guy from his high school is always a cool storyline, and seems like a guy who's a Vanderbilt fit off the floor too. So cool get for Vanderbilt. I think he has the potential to become a tremendous player. The upside there is really unlimited, what we've seen from him on tape. Can Vanderbilt develop that? It's going to be a big test for that staff. But Jamie Vincent's a guy who's already probably going to be improved from where he was last year. Those numbers that I put in my story, the 5 minutes, the 3.5 points per game. The shot blocking is there already, I think, and he is rapidly improving. So don't be surprised if maybe this summer he pushes a little bit. I don't know that he's going to be like, I don't know he's going to play as much as Colin Smith did his freshman year, but that's a guy who in a few months could be a lot better than he is now, and I would bet on that at this point.
We are 9 days away from Vanderbilt and Presbyterian, not next week, but the next Tuesday, right, November 7th at Memorial Gym. So we will be there. We'll be talking to Stack, I would guess, potentially next week, but yeah, maybe later next week, if not early next week or the next week, right, Monday, right before the game. Either way, we'll be talking to Stack, which will be fun. It's never not dull. Or it's never dull talking to Stack, so that's going to be fun. Joey, a lot to get to today in this podcast, and if you're listening, thank you for tuning in and watching. Again, we are live from Hawkins Field after Vanderbilt defeats Wake Forest in their scrimmage today, 2 out of 3 against a really good team, Joey. That I think it's an impressive day for Vanderbilt. Again, it nothing really nothing really shocking, I don't think, but Troy Leneve, a couple of home runs, and I thought overall the pitching staff did pretty well. And basketball-wise, secret scrimmage, they lost by 5 to Oklahoma. A few injuries, so we'll have stuff to ask Stack in that first availability. And then Jamie Vincent lands at Vanderbilt, and I don't know if people care, but yeah, Ole Miss leads Vanderbilt 26-0. We will have our post-game thoughts. We'll probably go live, so tune into that if you guys have tuned into this. So. But that'll do it. For Joey Dwyer, I'm Billy Derrick. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Vandy Sports Podcast.
All right.
We're good. I thought that was good.
Yeah.